Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Jacuzzi Girls podcast.
Yes, welcome back, everybody. I know it's been a hot second. My name is Jania,
And I'm Marcella.
and welcome to our show.
I know it's been a while since you've seen us, and we decided to revive the podcast just because, well, I don't know. Do you want to go into it, Jania?
Yeah, we might be a bit rusty. It's been a minute, but we are recharged, ready, and ready to, restart our podcast. So for the new episodes, we decided to film them a bit more professionally than what we did before on our Zoom calls with our audios that mismatched. But hopefully this will be a new period and we will see what it's like. I think for the first episode of season 2, should I say, we want to introduce who we are, why we are reviving this podcast, what kind of podcast do we like, and what kind of topics can you expect to see on our podcast? So,
For sure. All right.
do you have anything to add to that, Asela?
Well, I think we'll get into it, and I'm sure I'll have something to add. But you nailed it.
Okay, perfect. Should we start with a bit of background information? Do you want to talk about who you are and what
Yeah.
you're up to now?
Yeah. So if you don't know who we are, basically, I'm Acela. I live in London. I have a skincare startup that I'm working on. I'm really passionate about it. And Johnny and I have been childhood friends since we were born, basically. So I wouldn't even call us friends as much as I would call you like a sister. Because
Actually,
it's just,
I think
it's a very,
I think you're my acquaintance. Do we? Are we? Yeah.
no, we are.
Yeah.
It's a different relationship where, I mean, you guys will see on the podcast, it's like you can say certain things to each other and it's just different, the way it's taken, the way it's interpreted. So yeah. And yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else to say?
Did you say how old you were?
I'm just going to say I'm in my late 20s. I'm not going to say my exact age because I think that a lady never tells.
Okay, that's like so Libra of you, but actually aging is a blessing, so you should be proud of your age. It's not, like
I am. That's why I'm just going to keep it vague. I love my age, but I'm just going to keep it vague.
Okay, for anybody wondering, Acela is 1 year older than me and I'm 27. So that's why it's a podcast for late 20s, early 30s. We want to dive into topics that are relevant to this era of our lives. Should I explain a bit about myself?
Yeah, go for it.
So my name is Jania. I am 27 years old. I currently live in Astana. So actually, this podcast is filmed in 2 different locations and we will work on meshing the audio and video together. But since we saw other podcasters do it, we believe if they can, so can we. And I work in education. I'm the managing director of our company. We have private schools along other education projects in Kazakhstan. And we could definitely dive into this topic a lot further and deeper, which we are planning to in the upcoming episodes. But yeah, so the reason the podcast even began and started is back in 2021. Was it 2021 or
Yeah.
2022? I think I offered Acela to start a podcast because at that time
Wait, should we
Yeah.
talk about I forgot. Should we talk about our educational background?
Oh yeah, yeah, we could. Do you want to start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, quickly, because I think this is something I always forget about it because it seems like ages ago, but I guess maybe it's relevant.
It's like we already forgot what education is like. That should tell you.
Even though, yeah, I know.
That should tell you a bit about our age. Like it's like it feels like it wasn't part of our history, you know.
It's just it just feels like a different lifetime ago. But basically, so obviously we're both from Kazakhstan, but we both went to boarding school, Switzerland, and then I went to the U.S. and I went to Cornell there, and then after I lived in New York for a bit, and then I came to London and did my master's at Imperial and just kind of stayed here.
Yeah, and Asela has been living in London ever since. She did not come back to Kazakhstan. But for me, I've had similar trajectory to Asela's, I guess, but also different. So I left for boarding school when I was 14. I went to Switzerland. Prior to that, we both grew up in Almaty, and at 14, I left. Then I went, after boarding school, I went to attend university in Boston, Babson College. And after I graduated, I moved to New York as a typical international student schedule. I got a job in New York. I was working in New York for a year. Then I decided that while I was in my early 20s, I wanted to live in Asia. And I moved to Singapore for 2 years. I was working in wealth management there. And
Oh
then,
shit! And the pandemic started, right?
yeah, and then the pandemic started, and it really made me reevaluate my existence, because because Singapore, like we can. This is also another topic to discuss, but it's like very strict, and people are content with that. But for me, I was like, I'm definitely getting into jail somehow here by accident. I just know myself, you know? So I was like, okay, I think it's time that I get out of the Singapore, even though it was a great country, it treated me well. I was realized that I want to be maybe working in a place. I don't like having office hours where I have to be in the office from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. B, I was like, I think this is the time where I have to start taking more control of my life, my schedule, and not be dictated as a coworker in an office space. So I moved back to, basically that's why I moved back to Kazakhstan. I had this entire therapy session with my therapist where we discussed like the pros and cons of both locations. What does it mean if I move back, like living with parents again, and everything. But it all turned out well. So I moved back to Almaty. I was in Almaty for a year and a half. And then the past year, I've moved to. So yeah, it's been 1 year actually since I've moved to Astana. And I've lived here for one
That's
year, which is
wild.
insane to think about. But
Oh
yeah.
my God, dude, your story reminded me because I also had like an existential crisis, I guess, during the pandemic, but with my job. Because I thought I wanted to be in the corporate world. And so I joined a big four. And I think maybe it was the pandemic or whatever. I just thought, what do I want to do with my life? Like, what kind of impact do I want to have? Do I see myself here in 5 years? And I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to pursue what I'm actually passionate about and take this risk.
I also think that maybe this is an us thing, but I think I don't like being in a structure where it's like I have to have these office hours. That was my only thing that I was like, I feel like I'm not flexible enough to like pursue what I want because I found it personally to be inefficient being in one place of work for like 9 hours straight, like 10 hours straight. Obviously,
Yeah.
you get work done, but at the same time, a lot of those other hours are spent on just randomly sitting around talking to colleagues. And I don't know, personally, for me, that was my main thing as to why I wanted to leave and do something of my own. And yeah,
Yeah. For me, I don't know if this is. I just felt like the work that I was doing was not at all what I expected.
yeah.
I thought I would be doing something so profound and cool. And, you see those corporate women in movies. And then when it came, it wasn't. Don't get me wrong. It was a great company and the people were really great. But the work itself, I just didn't find fulfilling at all. It felt like, you know, I was this recent, master's grad and I was making these recommendations to big companies and it was the way it was happening. It was just packaged so nicely, but I was like, this is crazy. I was like, this is not what I want to be
Wait, but
doing.
why is it crazy? The fact that you have, as in like, is it crazy because you were working with these companies and saying certain things, or what was the crazy part?
This is just my opinion,
Yeah,
and I guess we're starting off very controversially.
as per usual.
I just think consulting is a bit of a scam.
I agree, and I think also the finance market is a scam as well, like the finance people as well. Not gonna lie.
But at least
Yeah.
I think the way they do their work, I feel like has more backing to it. Whereas, I just think, why would you hire an external company to come fix issues in your company? Like, I think you are it's one of those things, like, you
You
can
know
only help
best.
yourself.
The.
And, there's that book, When McKinsey Comes to Town. I mean, I didn't work at McKinsey. I'm just going to preface this. But if a consulting company comes to your firm, most likely not always, but there will be job cuts because that's what they justify.
Okay, and also, I actually agree what you said about like stepping in. For me, I thought finance was BS in terms of wealth management because we serviced ultra high net worth people. They would give us their money, and then they would have relationship managers attached to them. But in reality, they don't need to be like invest. You don't need to invest every single day on the finance markets because it's all kind of made up. Like I can't explain it, but when I started working there at first, I was like, this is so cool. It's like, I don't know, like math related, finance, etc. And then when I actually started diving in deeper into like why and where it comes from, it's all like mythical more. I can't explain it. But anyways, um, about consulting, I agree. We actually employed a woman who was saying like, "Oh, I can fix your sales for you. I can fix your marketing for you. I'll do this for you." And then like she just ended up. It was just like the worst experience ever. Like a lot of the systems that she set up like flew off, and were not working properly by the time she left. It was just chaos. And I realized I was like, I think instead of trying to find an easier solution by employing her to install those tools in our company, we should have just trudged through it and maybe employed an in-person employee to help us set it up rather than somebody who comes in for like 2-3 months and then leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's actually, I always suspected that about these like marketing agencies, but I never knew. But with big consulting firms, a lot of times, like, companies, their executive team will want to do certain things, but they can't just go and say, we're going to make these decisions. So they'll bring in a consulting firm, and kind of the consulting firm will provide recommendations based on what the executive people want, so that the executive people will go, see, like, this company said it, they did the like work,
Like they're
and this
experts,
is
yeah. But they're unbiased also.
yeah,
Yeah.
like this is the decision. So if we have to cut jobs, it was their recommendation. Like
Yeah.
stuff like that. Anyways, this was like a weird tangent about why I don't want to be in that industry anymore. But the people were cool, and I overall had a good experience. Just wasn't my experience, for like an experience for me, I guess.
That's fair. Also, I think that we are living in this age right now where we are still figuring ourselves out and
Yeah,
I think even with our careers, it's not like we are settled for the
yeah,
rest of our lives in this industry, or like maybe we want to branch out in the future. You never know. So
yeah,
it's all a learning curve.
yeah. Um, do we want to talk about why we're reviving the podcast now?
Yeah, I think you should talk about it because since you were the one who first was like, I don't want to do this anymore, and then you were like, actually, I want to do this again, and I was like, okay,
Oh my god.
Sasel, like, and then we like discussed everything and talked about the direction we want to take it in, and I was like, you know what, I love talking to you, and I feel like we have good synergy, so I was like, why don't we just start again? But yeah,
Yeah. So I think initially when we started the podcast in 2021, and you told me like you had this idea, at the time, I want to preface, I did not listen to any podcasts. So I don't know why I said yes in the first place. I was just like, sounds fun. And because I think I love doing stuff like that. But I was just like, yeah, it sounds fun. But I didn't listen to any podcasts. I think I was getting really overwhelmed with work
yeah.
and pressure and stress. And so I didn't even think it was going to be a big focus or anything. And then when we started, as we said, we had like horrible audio, horrible video. Like it was such a mess, but people still loved it and listened and tuned in. And I mean, the amount of people, random people I've had come up to me and say, "Oh my God, I love the podcast." It was almost, you know what? Maybe we did it in a very smart way, Jinya. We had an MVP. We proved that it has demand, and now we can make a better version.
We had a hypothesis, we tested it, it proved to be right, and now we're like, okay, you know what, we can invest our time, money, energy into this now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus, I now love podcasts. I'm so into them. So that was another reason. And Jenya and I want to do it properly. And I think that since we started the podcast, I think we have changed as people. And the topics we want to talk about now have also shifted somewhat. So if you remember, in the previous episodes, it was a lot of pop culture, which, sometimes it'll come up, but I just don't think we're as interested in it as we used to be. Just because I think we grew up a bit. And I think also, maybe this is a hot take, I think culturally, there's just so much information and there's so much going on. I think we're kind of moving away from being obsessed with pop culture, with TV, you know, stuff like that. Like I told you I don't even have any streaming platforms anymore except one, just because there's one show that I watch sometimes. But otherwise,
Which one?
oh my god, this is gonna be embarrassing. But it's you know this. It's Family Guy, American Dad,
Wait, but
Disney
so
Plus.
what Disney Plus? Oh, I love Disney Plus. I wish it was available in Kazakhstan.
Yeah, but everything else I canceled because I was just like I was bored. I was like, this is like so much content and to sift through, and I think I would rather go on a walk and listen to a podcast.
But also, I think that when we started filming, pop culture was really in. I can't explain it, but I think it was more
No, that's what
entertaining
I'm
and
trying to
fun.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there's like this shift. I don't think it's just you and I that are shifting into this. Yeah, I think it's just society as a whole, where it's like pop culture just seems like negative news again. And it's like we are trying to keep our focus and do our best to work on our lives. And that's why you
It's
naturally
just not as exciting.
you naturally kind of stop listening to what doesn't serve you anymore or watching what doesn't serve you, and you do watch shows. Like for me, like I think I'm going through a phase of trash reality TV, but I think I watch it not so much because let's say I love it, but more because
Yeah.
I can turn off my brain while I'm watching it. So like those kind of shows, do
Yeah.
you know? Like as in I don't think they're producing any good shows nowadays, or I think the ones that have been I've probably watched. Anyways, this is a tangent. We can discuss this after. But
It's just not as exciting anymore,
yeah,
I would
now
say.
we will have different topics, and we also will have a book club where we will read one book per month. Asala and I
Yeah.
are currently figuring out the theme, but we will discuss what the book will be at the end of this episode. And basically, our topics will range anywhere from health to finances to dating. I don't know, lessons that we've learned or stuff that we haven't learned yet, but we want to. I don't know. I think that it could be multifaceted, and that is just us prefacing that we will be steering more less about pop culture and more about our lives.
I think it's also, this is what I was trying to say before, where the reason why we want to focus more on, you know, women in their, or people, I guess, in their early 30s, late 20s, is because I think that I've noticed a shift. I would say the last, well, actually, like, yeah, the last like year and a half, where my interests just have shifted so much in such a really drastic way. And I don't know if you feel it. And like, I connect more with people who are also like in this age bracket because our interests are just so different. Like you said, wellness, self-development, and not to say we're not fun. Like we love to have fun, but you know, we when we were even talking about New Year's, I was like, the idea of going out on New Year's is like the most boring thing on the planet. Whereas I would say 3 years ago, it seemed like the biggest, most fun night of my life. Now I'm just like sounds kind of boring,
Now we have like two
if
drinks and we
anything.
go to sleep.
Well, like it's more fun for me if we discuss, like I told you, like, you know, a trip that I'm going with my friends where maybe we're not like partying every night, but we're going to restaurants, we're eating whatever we want, drinking whatever we want. Like that is to me the epitome of like wild and like crazy because you're just living it up and doing whatever you want.
Yeah, I think it's also fair to say that we have also grown up, as in when a few years back we would be at the club still. Now you would have to pay me a lot of money to take me. I don't even know what clubs there are now, you know? Before I would be like, oh,
Yeah.
let's go here, let's go there. This is what's in, this is what's out. Now, like, I
Yeah.
don't even know one place, be it, obviously, I do know the ones that I went to when I was younger, but in terms of if there's anything new and popping, we wouldn't be able to tell you. This is just not that phase of our lives.
I could tell you what's new and popping in like, I don't know, maybe like a wellness or like a productivity thing that everyone's trying, but I couldn't tell you like, I don't know, anything like about a celebrity that I used to be obsessed with.
Fair. And
Like, yeah.
yeah, so that's what we want to dive into. Um, should we talk about how do you think that? Oh, well, I guess we just discussed this. How do you think that we've changed since we last podcasted? And why do you think that this period of our life is special? I feel like that's also multifaceted. Why is it special? Because every single person is at a different stage. Like some people literally have multiple kids and
Yeah.
are just housewifing it up. Other people are like single. Some people are still going out all the time. Others are
Yeah.
staying in and they're like, I don't drink anymore. And um, it's interesting to like have that in the back of your mind, understanding that even like Acela and I are in different stages, but at the same time the same ones. And
Yeah.
yeah,
100%. Like, I think this is so funny. I was like watching this meme actually. Your sister sent it to me. It was like, this guy, it's like, you have your two types of friends, and it's like one guy is like coming home from Ibiza, and the other one is going to like,
on a marathon.
you know, yeah, on a marathon. Like, so you have like all these kinds of things going on. But I think what's really interesting is, and I've noticed it with myself, and I've noticed it with a lot of my friends, everyone's kind of coming into their own.
Yeah.
And it's like very refreshing and interesting because obviously we're all very inward focused and you analyze yourself a lot. But I think when you can see a difference in your friends,
Yeah.
it's really interesting because you're like, oh, like I guess you've also like, I don't know, you've been thinking about it, you've been doing the work, or I didn't know you had it in you even, like it's so interesting.
And also what's interesting is what lessons hit us at what time. Because
Yeah.
let's say like you might have had realizations about certain things in your life a few years back, but like I want to say that every experience is different. So let's say I might have realized something 2 years ago, but then you realized it only yesterday versus something that you might have realized 2 years ago. I only realized it today, let's say. And what you said about like coming into your own and how every person's path is different, I completely agree with that. It's nice. I think this period of our life is special also because we're kind of shifting properly now from a child position to an adult position. And maybe for some of us,
Yeah.
we've already shifted a while back. For some of us, we're still shifting. For others, they haven't even began stepping into that adult role where you're responsible for your life, be it through finances, actions, location, whatever it might be. And taking responsibility for your actions, for your behavior, like turning inward and stepping into your own.
But at the same time, I don't know if you feel this. I think it's like you're very aware that you're youthful and young for the first time. Does that make sense? And you appreciate it.
Interesting. I feel like I do think I literally had that thought today on the treadmill. Listen, like, wow, right now I'm young. Let's say my boyfriend is young and we're just two young people. But let's say if we get married and we get old, then it's like we will see each other age through the times. That's what I was thinking about. But yeah, I think I don't know if I would
I
say
think you
that
just
I'm that
enjoy.
aware about it now, though. You know?
I would say I just enjoy it more now than I did when I was 18 or 21.
I think now I'm more aware of the fact that I'm aging, and that gives me kind of anxiety. Because let's say when I was 21,
No, but that's
I
a
was like,
different topic.
I'm young, I'm popping, whatever, like going out to drink. Now, if I drink, I'm like, why am I drinking? Like, it's gonna age me faster. Why am I doing sleeping late? I need to sleep early for my health and like to live longer. And or like, why am I eating poorly right now? Like fast food, whatever. I'm abusing my body. I should not do that to live. Like, I'm thinking now about ways to prolong my life and like look good. Do you know?
Okay, this is what I meant. Can I just like elaborate really
Yeah.
quickly? Because I don't think this is like hitting what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I agree with everything you said. But for example, when I was 21, I guess we were all like trying to figure it out ourselves, even 20, whatever, like in that early stage. I remember I had an event and I wore this. I really didn't feel like I was attractive enough. And so I wore this like dress and I remember like I was like, is it too open? Is it too revealing? Like, do I look good in it? Like I felt so I remember this so vividly, feeling so awful about myself, feeling like I look horrible. And then I looked at photos of myself from that period and I was like, oh my God.
Dude, I have the
So
same. I have the same.
So cute.
And like, let's say now you might take photos of yourself and you're like, oh, I don't look that good. And then you're like, we will be
No,
40.
now I'm like,
Huh?
now I like myself in every photo. Now I have an event coming up. I'm like, oh, I am wearing a short, revealing dress. Like, are you kidding me? Like, and I'm like milking it. Now I'm like, oh my God, I was so stupid.
See, I'm happy that you came to that. For me, first, I'm like, oh, I look so good. Then, but at the same time, I think I look the same. But at the same time, I think, oh, but now, like, let's say I also look different. And I'm like, how do I better myself? But I think it's, I think I need to get to that place where you are because lately I've been having like body image issues.
Oh
And
my God, look through all your, like literally, I'm telling you, your whole camera roll. Just look through like from whatever 2015 starting, go down. It's incredible. Like I literally remember so vividly a lot of these moments where I felt awful about myself. And
you looked
I look
amazing,
back
though.
and I'm like, oh shit, like cutie patootie.
Yeah, fair. I guess it's this like empathy for yourself, right? As in that's what we
Mm-hmm.
should be practicing, because I feel like I tend to spiral and I like tend to really beat myself up and I think about myself negatively and whether it's like what I'm doing, my body, what might not be. But what I will say that I now I'm more aware of and more confident in are my abilities and kind of my ability to grow, learn, and be better as time goes on.
Mm.
And as in being able to learn, I think that's the biggest probably skill and asset. Like being aware that you can overcome challenges. There we go.
Fair.
Yeah,
But you think you only got it now? This ability?
I think I got it over last year
Or the
was.
realization?
I think last year was very transformative. Obviously,
Mm.
you get that realization with just even going through school, right? And like, let's say you survive like all these exams, essays, whatever. That also builds
Yeah.
character. But it's more over the last year. I think I was kind of more scared to assert myself in society, if that makes sense. Now
Mm.
I know that we're all figuring it out as we go. So I have
Yeah.
a more, I think, maybe like strong voice and I understand like what I want and where we're going. And then also,
You're more of an individual, I also think.
yeah, potentially. I mean, what does that
Does that make
mean?
sense?
Yeah.
Like, what I'm saying is, like, you, I think you realize that you're an adult and you can get things on your own and you just have to try and it's all doable. I'm just saying, I don't know if you felt this, but I think a lot of times I only had this realization recently when I met up with this girl who was really young. Like she is still in school and she is really worried about getting a job. And she basically we met up for coffee and she was telling me all of this and I remember feeling like her. I remember being in her shoes. She was like, they're saying this is like the worst job market for like ever. And I was like, they say that about every year.
Yeah.
Like, every year they say that. And then I was saying like, because she was saying like I kind of want to work at a startup, and I told her, oh, well, like I know this person, this person. She was like, I was like, if you want, I could introduce you or like make a connection. She was like, yeah, that would be amazing. But then I thought about it, and I was like, one thing I realized, if you reach out yourself, it will mean a lot more to the person, and it'll take you a lot more seriously because you're interested in them and you're interested in working for them rather than me being like, oh, I know this little girl and like she would love to like talk to you. It just doesn't hit like it just hits differently.
I mean, I think in the situation, it's actually better if you are the first one to text, being like, by the way, I have a friend who's interested in your
I told
startup.
her if they
Yeah.
don't I told her if you basically have to text first
Yeah.
and then basically I'll follow up.
Oh.
But take the
But I
initiative.
think,
Take the
okay,
initiative yourself.
I think that at least you have to preface being like, I gave your number to my friend who's interested in your company.
Oh, no, I'm actually saying the opposite. I think you should just reach out yourself on LinkedIn, on email, because I have seen how much it works when you just because people appreciate the bravery, they appreciate the boldness, and they treat you as an equal.
So,
Whereas if
so you, and then, but then would you ever say that you were the referral or no?
so basically, I think I would want her to basically make the first impression herself,
Yeah.
and then I would follow up and say, oh, I actually know this person. She's great.
Okay, so what I was talking about more, it's more on the context of, let's say like a guy comes to me and he's like, I want to um, um, know more about Astella's company. Then I would text you first, being like, Estella, by the way, I gave your number to this guy. Can I give your number to this guy because he's interested in your company?
Yeah. No, that's different. But if he was like a lot younger or older than me.
Okay, fair. No, it's not about. It's not in a dating context. I'm talking about when you're connecting people through business. I think it's important to give a
Yeah.
heads up, being like, by the way, this
Yes.
person is this person, and I do know them, and we have discussed. But you decide what you want to do going onwards. I'm just here to make that contact.
100%. I'm saying when you're a young person and you're trying to get a job,
Yeah,
I think it's better if you reach out yourself. If you are doing business together, it's different. Of course, you need a referral. I think
yeah,
that's best. But if you are a young person and you are reaching out to someone or you're interested in, if you're really interested, you would reach out yourself. You take the initiative. Because I think that I have been in situations where I think people would say I was interested in something and I felt like I had to be and I wasn't. And it just never felt authentic. And I could tell the other person like felt it. And it just didn't hit as when I actually was like,
motivated to
hi,
do
like,
it.
I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
when you actually wanted
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Sorry. Outside of business, I'm saying like when you're a young person, like you kind of, I think you only learn to take the initiative and be like, actually, I'm an adult and I can reach out myself.
Yeah, fair, fair. I agree with that. I feel like you're more floating in this time and space, and even at a job, you're kind of waiting for assignments. Versus, to be honest, being at a job, you have to take the initiative, kind of, and you have to
Yeah,
form
you
your
have to be
own
a self
job.
starter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you work. Being in an adult position means that you take like control of your own job. Nobody has to tell you what to do all the time. You know.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, I think you become more of like an individual and more like empowered of yourself and as an adult or whatever you want to call it.
Okay, so Sal, that was a fun topic. Do you want to talk now that we have a few minutes left? Do you want to talk about the podcast that we like? But let's maybe briefly go over them, so that people get an idea of who we are. Maybe.
Like, you mean the podcast that we kind of want to emulate and bring elements of and we like?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. I know, so I love the Skinny Confidential.
Yeah,
I mean, I've talked about it. I just love Lauren Michael Bostic. I feel like they're podcast royalty, basically. I mean, they are. He owns Dear Media, right?
yeah.
And I love that they're so fun, but they have these serious topics, these helpful topics, business, entertainment, whatever. But then they'll say like the craziest, most silliest things amongst each other, and you really get a sense of their personality and that they're not perfect, but they're working on themselves. And I don't know, I think they're really relatable and cool. And yeah, just definitely people I would love to go to dinner with, if that makes sense.
Okay. Do you have only that one, or do you want to mention?
No, I have
Yeah.
many. I feel like I'm all over the spectrum because I have a lot of like business podcasts I like, and then I have a lot of niche personal interest ones I like. If anyone likes history, there's this really fun podcast called Blood and Business. Horrible name, but it's these two girls who basically do a whole season, hour-long episodes on certain figures in history, and they had I kid you not, like 30 episodes on the Kennedy family, and I listened to each one.
Wait, what
It
is
was
it
like
called?
20 episodes. Blood and Business.
Oh, I think I also listened to a similar podcast, but it was not called Blood and Business. It was called something. I think Even the Rich. That's the one that I listened to.
Oh,
Yeah. It
yeah.
also talks about like Kennedy family and then just like random.
I am obsessed with the Kennedys now,
Same.
and I listen to. I think I counted. I was like, I spent 30 hours listening about the Kennedy family.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm also I love the Kennedy family, and I always like every now and then I like read about them, or like I watch a movie, and because they're
I mean,
just
it's
fascinating. It's
fascinating.
fascinating, and how they all died, and I think it's the Kennedy curse. It just you like read about this, and I don't know. Um,
So
I
that one I love if you love history, like girly history, I would
yeah.
say. And in terms of, so yeah, then I listen to a lot of business podcasts and I listen to some sustainability podcasts as well. So we can like dive into that later because there's so many. But just off the top of my head, like podcasts that I would always listen to, no matter I wait for the episodes is Blood and Business, the Skinny Confidential, the Foster Sisters podcast. I love
The world's first
I think it's called the
podcast.
world's first. And then this is kind of like a little bit nerdy, but the FT news briefing, because it's basically like 10 minutes a day, news every day, and you're done. Like Because I used to like get so overwhelmed by like all the news, but now I'm like, just put it on while you brush your teeth, 10 minutes, what's going on in the world. Perfect, great, I'm done.
Okay.
So those are the ones I listen to daily.
Um, I I know the podcast that you mentioned. The only new one is Blood and Business. But we can definitely dive into podcasts that we like later. For me, I would say that I one is Morning Toast. Is this is this podcast with two sisters who talk about pop culture news every day. But they also talk up in the beginning about their own lives, and I just find them really funny. Then this is a random one, but Two Bears, One Cave. It's
Oh, I don't
also
know that one.
it's Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer, and they're just so
Oh, okay.
unhinged. And I really agree that men can get away with many more things than women can and not get canceled. And I just find Bert Kreischer crazy, like the way he thinks. And I also really enjoyed the world's first podcast. And I am the same as you, where I listen to many different podcasts about business, entrepreneurship, and just news. But today, I actually found a very funny podcast. It's called The Broski Report with Brittany Broski. Do you know like Brittany Broski? She's like that meme where it's like when you taste something and you're like, but I don't know how I feel about it, and then she's like, I'll send it to you, anyways, and I'll try to put it in here what meme I'm talking about. But she's a very funny like media personality, I guess. She's on TikTok,
Yeah.
Instagram, and her podcast is actually so unhinged. I was listening to it on the way here for the first time, and I think that I have a feeling I'm gonna like listening to her going forward.
Yeah.
As in,
Do you like
the,
Tinks's podcast?
oh yeah, I was about to say I do like Tinks as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's pretty much like the intro episode. Just to give you an idea, the next episode is going to be the Valentine's Day episode because I think it's coming out on Valentine's. So relationships, we know people love that.
Yeah, next episode is going to be focused on what we think about certain relationships and advice to our younger selves.
Yeah.
What
And then the book episode after, if anyone wants to get the book and read it with us, it's the Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by John Gray. Because when we did the last book, I think it was Why Men Love Bitches, people loved it. And I think it was a really interesting book to discuss. So we thought along the same vein.
Yeah, that's the book club. Everybody get it. I'm sure that you guys have heard of that title. I heard it first from Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging. But Selena, I decided to read that kind of book now, but it doesn't mean that every single month we're going to have a dating book. We will also see what is relevant and what we want to read. We will
Yeah, it's just
no.
February, Valentine's, just the theme is relationships, I guess.
Okay, thank you everybody so much for tuning in, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.